Here. Today we have Dr. Cigal Knei-Paz, and she's a clinical social worker and director of the Family Therapeutic Center in Netanya, Israel, a lecturer at Tel Aviv University and the Haruv Institute. She brings deep expertise in trauma-informed care and child-parent psychotherapy. Dr. Knei-Paz is actively engaged in frontline therapeutic work with families affected by the October 7th attacks and is a committed advocate for the return of Israeli hostages, not only for the sake of the families, but for the healing of Israeli society. And so our organization's leadership met her in Netanya during a recent March of Nations delegation visit. And I think it was Jeff Craig who met you. And we're thankful that you're with us. And we want to welcome everyone on our panelists. We have Dr. Susanna Kokanan, who is our educational advisor and the author of our Holocaust Garden of Hope. We have my husband, Mitch, who helps me with everything and co-host on our crossover TV show that we've had for 15 years, focusing on healing relationships between Jews, Christians, and our God. And so what we do for those of you who are new to this virtual coffee encounter, we focus on sensitizing heart to the issues of the Holocaust. And we do it with marches of remembrance. We do it with our Holocaust Garden of Hope and blogs and educational conferences, books. We just came out with a new book that Dr. Susanna Kokanan wrote, Why Remember the Holocaust. And this is our first exhibit in our Holocaust Garden of Hope. And we will have, it's an art history book. So it's a lot of beautiful art with it, as well as her expertise after working 10 years in Yad Vashem, focusing on her program, which was Christians for Yad Vashem. So this is, our audiences mainly are a lot of the Jewish and Christian community. And we're just thankful that you're here. Dr. Cigal, we're going to have you speak. And I think you said there was someone else joining us today. I don't see her on the panel.
Right. No, at the end, she won't join me. So
Okay, I'm sorry.
it
Well,
was
I'm glad we get
too
to
much
hear
of
more.
a.
We get to hear more from you. And so you're going to share with us for, I don't know, about 30 minutes, I think we have with you. And then we'll have Q&A. Is that okay?
Yes, of course. Of
Well,
course.
go ahead.
Okay, so first of all, I'm really grateful for you inviting me, and it's really a wonderful opportunity for me to talk with an audience that usually, I find myself here in Israel with audiences that are more familiar with the subject, although I'll talk about it familiar, but to a certain extent. So being with you and really after meeting the March of Countries, or how is it called? The March of Nations, right? Which is so wonderful. And I got this chance to meet Jeff and all the people. And really, this is exactly how good things happen, right? It's all about relationship and connections, and really here we are together. So thank you very much for inviting me.
You're welcome.
I'll say a few words about my expertise and the subject we're going to talk about. As you said, I'm a social worker. My expertise in trauma and specifically trauma with young children. The past almost 2 years, it's really awful to think about it, but we are 2 years in continuous trauma in Israel, beginning from October 7th, 2023. Now we're in August, where we were invaded by Hamas in a very, very violent attack. And since then, I'm really dealing with the results of this attack. I was part of the group that was waiting for the children that came back from captivity. I'll talk a bit about that. And working with the evacuees from north and south. As my work is in Netanya, so we had 16 hotels that were actually all residents from the southern part of Israel that were evacuated because they couldn't stay in their homes, not only because it was dangerous, but part of their homes were completely ruined and burned. And from the north, before the attack began, the Israeli actually active attack on Lebanon and Hezbollah actually. So these settlements or cities were evacuated and people came to Netanya. So we built a whole kind of operation of helping these people that came with really a shirt and something that some people didn't have their glasses on, really of course medicine. So we had to build this whole operation for the concrete needs of the people, but also for the therapeutic needs, and I'll talk about that as well. And right to now, we still have 50 refugees in Gaza. The estimation or guesstimation, I would say, is a combination of guessing and estimating, is of 22 of them alive and 28 which are dead, but their bodies are there. And I'll talk about the importance of bringing back the bodies. And I am part of a team that we call ourselves BO. In Hebrew, it's or come along. I think we talked about. I'm not sure how is the translation to English, but really we're actually talking with different communities in Israel about the implications of the captivity over of course, the people who are captive. The implications of the captivity on their families. Of course, you can imagine what it means to be a parent or a spouse or a child of a person in your family that is captive, and over the whole Israeli society. I think this is less talked about, but the fact that we're actually having people that we don't know what is their situation, or rather we get these awful films telling us how terrible they're treated. And some of them, I would say 42 of them were killed while they are in captivity, either killed because of they were executed, or they were killed because of the Israeli attack, airplane attack, or that they died out of sickness, or there were at the beginning there were also elderly people. So the feeling of being an Israeli citizen, knowing that there are captives there, suffering from hunger, suffering from different diseases, and of course torture, is something that what we can say now from research that was done for the past 2 years is that 50% of Israeli citizens, either emotional or physical complaints, is attached or is linked to the fact that they are still captives in Gaza. Meaning, and I can say for myself, and I know many people feel that they have different diseases that are, of course, a problem of sleeping. And I don't have anyone, I don't have, fortunately, any relative captive right now, but some people are feeling it's hard for me to sleep a full night. 1 second, my daughter is helping me here with the technical part. So, okay, so 1 second. So we will close this and go on it here. Okay, so 1 second, I'm going to a new computer and then I have my PowerPoint. So 1 second.
Yes, and while she's doing that, I will mention that also Dr. Cigal was going to share. I guess she got distracted because she didn't have her PowerPoint working, but something to do with the fact that she is a descendant of Holocaust survivors. Um,
Right.
her parents were Holocaust survivors. Were your parents child survivors?
Right. So my parents, I'll say a word about that, and maybe this is really the connection where I feel so obliged to help people right now that are in actually situation that is in some ways resemble the Holocaust, in other ways they don't. But my mother actually, she's 81 this year, and she was born in a working camp in Austria. She's from Hungary. Her mother was pregnant when the Nazis came into Hungary, and my grandfather was sent immediately to Auschwitz, while my grandmother was on a train with being pregnant. It was May 44. She was pregnant with my mother, and she knew that something is going to happen. She didn't know what. She made sure she had with her a cotton and scissors. And when they asked if she wants to go and work in a factory or rather in a field, she thought that working in a field with a young child. Can you see the
Yes.
presentation?
Mazel tov. What's your daughter's name?
Sorry.
Your helper. Yes,
Yes, yes.
PowerPoint is working. Yes.
Great, great. So I'll stop it right now and then I'll put it back again. No? Okay.
It's
Um,
okay to stay on there while you're talking if you want.
okay. אוקיי, so thank you, חן. אתה רוצה להגיד שלום? זה 11 איש בסך הכל.
תודה רבה.
Yeah, this is my daughter.
Hello.
She's, by the way, a social work student. She's studying.
Oh, lovely. What's your name?
My name is Jen.
Jen. Nice to meet you. You look beautiful.
You too. Thank you. Enjoy.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
So you were talking about your
Right. So my mother was, and then my grandmother said that it would be better to give birth in in the open air than in a factory. And little did she know that if she would say a factory, she would be executed. She got to a working camp, and there in June 14th, she gave birth to my mother with the help of a dentist, meaning rather a student, a dental student, and some other woman that was there. The scissors, the cotton really helped her. My mother was very, very sick. Of course, she gave birth in actually where the horses live. And
stable.
yes, and
This was what year?
this
1944?
was 1944, June 14th. She was very, very sick. My mother, of course, apparently, being giving birth in such a place, and so my mother actually was. One second. No, it's fine. Thank you. And my mother was probably the owner of the farm, or gave pity on my grandmother, or maybe my grandmother paid him something she never told us, and he let her go to a hospital. There was one hospital in Vienna that was a children's hospital that the Nazis kept it in order to show as if they're taking care of kids. And she managed to go to this hospital together with my mom. My mother had an ear infection, and of course, what they did there wasn't very professional, and actually she lost her. They did an operation, a surgery, and she lost her. She's deaf in one ear. So this is how I know my mother, and she lives all her life with one ear that she can't hear through, but otherwise she's very she can hear everything, even I think better than the rest of us.
So she was, excuse me, so she was born in a concentration camp.
Exactly.
Wow. And what is the name of that camp?
The camp was Katau. The name was Katau. And actually, there was something very, very emotional that 2 years ago, somebody contacted her and said that she's writing, she's a historian, and she's writing a dissertation. She made a book out of it about this specific camp. My mother did not know that this camp, it doesn't exist as a camp, a working camp, sorry. It doesn't exist anymore. And a year ago, she went together with my granddaughter, another one, and my daughter, another daughter. She went with her, and there was a huge ceremony, and she met the grandchild of the owner of this working camp. And it was very, very emotional. He came up to her after the ceremony, and he said that he is so full, he feels so much regret, and he is so remorseful for the fact that his grandfather actually owned this working camp, and he feels so guilty. And my mother said that he doesn't need to feel this way. She's here, she's alive, she has a beautiful family, she has me, she has 3 granddaughters, and she really was full of compassion towards him. And I must say that my mother's way of living and thinking is that if she went through such a thing and being, a refugee in her own country, she always feels compassion to other refugees. She feels very strongly that we can make peace with the Palestinians. She's very left-wing, and really I think this is her story. And I'll say that my father's story is a different one. He was 2 years old in Warsaw when the war started, and his father understood that my grandfather read Mein Kampf, and he said, this person, Hitler, is serious. He's going to come and kill us all. And he told all his family that he thinks they need to start fleeing towards the east, meaning towards Russia, no matter if they'll fall there and there'll be captives there, but this is better than waiting till Hitler comes and invades Poland. No one, all his 8 brothers and sisters and his parents, no one believed him. And he took his wife and his son. My father was an only child, and started actually selling things in order for him to have, this jewelry all along the way, so he can bribe the soldiers going all the way to the east. And they started their way towards Russia, and they managed to get to Siberia. There they were actually refugees. My grandmother was a doctor, so she was a midwife. Actually, she helped bring babies. And my grandfather knew 7 languages, so he was the mailman. They suffered from hunger, of course, from cold, but they survived. And I will say, maybe this scholarship, but later on after the war, they were refugees. They went to Georgia and later to Paris. Eventually, my grandmother had a sister in Canada. So she managed to get papers. They lived in Canada until my father was, I think he was 24. And then he got to I don't know if you know this, the Rhodes Scholar, President Clinton. Exactly. He got a Rhodes Scholar. He got to Oxford. He did his PhD in political science. He was also very interested in revolutions, and after what he went through, he got an offer to stay in Oxford, and he decided that there is no other place for the Jewish people, and he made Aliyah, came to Israel. Here he met my mother. And he brought his parents from Canada when they were already around the ages of 70 and 80. He brought them to Israel. They didn't know the language, but he said that this is the only place that he wants to see them in.
What year was that he came to Israel?
He came to Israel in 65. So he met actually my mother, and both of them are really with a lot of compassion towards other people, And I think that their kind of, legacy, as I see it, and I definitely believe in it as well, is that being refugees and knowing the suffering that people feel when they don't have a nation, we can have enough compassion to believe that other people also have to have the right for self-recognition.
So this got you this amazing story. My family's from Hungary also.
Mm,
They didn't survive. Most of them were in Auschwitz, but my parents were rescued and hidden by Christians, my father's business friends in Budapest. But everyone else in Sopron, a small village, were taken to Auschwitz by their
wow.
sense, neighbors who promoted. I found out that Danaker, I think his name is, who was the person who was in charge of mobilizing all of the Hungarian Jews to
Okay.
Auschwitz. He was born and raised in the town of Tübingen. That's the founder of the Holocaust Marches of the Nations, and that's where their church is, and that's where they started all this. Is the town of Tübingen, and Danaker,
Wow.
name of the man who mobilized, worked with Eichmann to. He was in charge of the Hungarian Jews deportation from that town.
Right.
That these Nazi descendants who do the March of Nations,
Right.
because
So,
they feel the
um,
guilt also because of their town and their families. So
right. Yes, so this is my story. And my name, by the way, I'll just say a word about my name. My name is Cigal. In Hebrew, Cigal is also a violet, the color purple. Sagol is purple, so it's also the flower violet. But it's also Am Segula, the people who are special people. So my parents called me that after
special treasure,
present,
special treasure.
exactly, and they referring to the country. So I think after they both went through this ordeal, they felt being here and having me, as a Israeli tabar, being born here, this was a very big thing for them. Yes.
That's
So
what. So here you
this,
are. Now we have hostages, and you become a social worker and PhD, and you're dealing with the children who were in the tunnels or who were hostages. But your focus is on children, correct? Do you want to
right,
continue focusing?
right. So right, exactly. And it's interesting, because I found only like I think someone asked me a year ago, I was in this panel, other social, my students got a kind of it was, anyways, it was a certain ceremony, and in this panel I was asked why did I choose being a social worker or to do what I do now, and then only then it occurred to me that I'm dealing with young children that went through trauma, and I am trying to heal them, and both my parents actually were young children that went through trauma. My mother, of course, was born in such a situation, and my father was 2 years old. And it's interesting how I found my way to be, healing young children. And as you said, the past 2 years, actually, after 50 days in Gaza, there was a deal that brought back most of the children, not the Bibas. Bibas are the two red-headed children, Yarden and Kfir, that were murdered there together with their mom. Their father came back only after a year, realizing already there, because the Hamas has told him that they were killed. Imagine him sitting there knowing that his children, two young kids, 5 and 3, or even less back then, and his wife were killed. Surviving this, arriving to Israel, his family was waiting for him. His sister was very much involved in, really advocating. And we were a few in the team that were waiting for the young kids. There has never been such a thing in the Western world where children were in captivity. only in Africa, Boko Haram, but we actually didn't know anything about how do we deal with children that have been also kidnapped and also in captivity, so for 50 days. We had to kind of look for, there was no research. We had to find the way ourselves, using, of course, what we know about attachment, about trauma, using the material we do know, and we waited for them. And they were, we found out that the kids that were with their parents, with their mother especially, in captivity, felt in many ways, I would say, they felt, of course, in danger, but they had their mom to take care of them. Some of them, it wasn't their mother, but it was someone else that they knew from their community. And a year ago, if you remember, there were 6 captives that were killed. One of them was Hirsch Goldberg, that his parents are very known in the United States, Rachel and John Goldberg Polin, Hirsch, Carmel, and 4 others. And Carmel actually was a yoga expert, and she was also occupational therapist. She helped a lot of the refugees back. Sorry, I'm not using the right word. Hostages, sorry. She helped a lot of the hostages back in Gaza. 2 of them were kids, 2 young kids that lost their mother. They saw their mother murdered in front of their eyes in Kibbutz Be'eri. Their father went and fought and eventually was murdered and kidnapped. And then only a year later, they knew that he was murdered and then kidnapped. And he's still there. His body is still in Gaza. And when Carmel Gat was murdered a year ago, they went to her funeral, these 2 kids, 12 and I think 15, and they said she was our second mother. We lost our mother in Kibbutz Be'eri, and we lost a very dear woman that took care of us when we had no mother, took care of us. And actually they had another loss. Her being murdered in captivity was another loss for these 2 young kids. I'll say that there was a difference between the kids that came back and had their parents here, and their community was not in the south, but rather they came to the kibbutzim to visit their family, and their community was in Tel Aviv or in the center of Israel. So they had their home, they had their family. It was different for children that were hostages, and their family was either killed and their whole community was, actually their houses were burned. It was something very interesting was about the teenagers that were in a school that was, each one of them was in a different community, but they went to the same school. But when they came back, or when they were, distributed, so some of them went to Jerusalem, and some went to Netanya, and some went to Tel Aviv, and they missed each other. And they insisted to continue and be together. And everybody understood how important it is for their rehabilitation at this age of being, teenagers, to be together. So they built a school for all of them in En Gedi, near the Dead Sea, in like a dormitory, so they can stay together. And this was really, really very, very important for their rehabilitation. So we know that for, teenagers, youngsters, it's very important to be together. And this was part of what they wanted, and it was really wonderful. One of their teachers, Liat Atzili, was also a hostage, and she came back after 50 days. And at the end of the year, when they did the ceremony, of ending the year, they were also able to, mock her and also use the humor. And they said something in this fun day when you finish school. They said, at least now, Liat, we can send her messages because before we didn't see, you know, on the WhatsApp, we couldn't connect to her. So now Liat is here, you can send her messages and ask her
because she's not their teacher anymore.
No, she came back and she became their teacher again. Yeah, but they were, you know, so now she's answering our calls. Yeah, before she was disconnected.
Of course.
So I want to say a few words about the condition of the hostages right now. I don't know if you saw the pictures of the hostages that were sent. There were a few, you know, films of Eviatar, David, and Ram Baraslavsky. The situation is really, really awful. They are now, right now, 1 second, I want to make sure. 1 second that I can okay, yeah, 1 second. 1 second. Just want to make it a bit smaller so I can see it. Okay. So there were altogether 251 hostages, as you see, males and females, 37 children from the age of 10 to 18, 30 seniors. One senior came back, 80 years old, amazing, Gadi Moses, just an amazing person, survived. He said, when he returned, the first thing he said to his kids who waited for him, he lost his wife. She was murdered. And he told his kids, we are going to build Nir Oz again. This was the first thing that was on camera. He said, we're going to build our kibbutz again. What you can see here is that most hostages came back because of agreements. This is what we are advocating for. There were also military operations that brought back 8 hostages, but we also lost and wounded. There was also one officer that was killed in one of these operations. 49. Yes, that's awful. Arnon Zmora, a very, very special person. And the whole operation was called after him, after he died. Bodies, there are 49 bodies that were also in different operations were brought back to Israel. And what we have right now, the situation right now, so as you can see, most of them came back as a result of an agreement. And this is actually the only way, as we see it right now, to bring them back. You see the tunnels here, the way they were kept. Some of them were kept in houses, but right now, what we know is that most of them, or maybe all of them, are kept in a dark and closed space, limited access to, of course, to natural air, and restricted movement, minimal sensory stimulation, poor hygiene, lack of food. I want to show you this, maybe I want to make sure that you can hear it.
החיים ברצועה לא קלים. אנחנו חיים בחוסר מזון, חוסר שתייה, חוסר תרופות. חיים עם חולדות, כבישים וחיות אחרות. חוסר בהיגיינה משפיע עלינו קשות. אנחנו נמצאים עם מחלות עור וקשקשים. אין לנו סבון.
Yeah. So these are the psychological. Can you can you see it when you saw the film?
Yes, and we can hear it too.
Okay, great. So this is the physiological effects. We're talking about people who are by now are 40 kilograms. And of course, in addition to that, no medical care, no drugs, and trauma, sexual assaults, chronic diseases. There are some people there who have asthma. Matan has an autoimmune disease. And of course, psychological abuse, meaning that telling them that everybody forgot about them, they're not going to return, different kind of, of course, emotional and psychological abuse. Of course, what we can find after 22 months is sensory deprivation, hallucination, disorientation and anxiety, social isolation, which is really the worst, loneliness, depression, cognitive decline, in such 22 months of being alone. One of the captive, Alon Ohel, was together with Eli Sharabi that gave wonderful interview. Maybe you saw it. I don't know. It was in Uvda, but now he's alone. Many of them are alone right now. Of course, we're expected to see them with post-traumatic stress disorder, depression, anxiety, and of course, and right now the rehabilitation of them will be much, much more difficult than the ones that came at the beginning. As you see here, Or Levi, Eli Sharabi, Ben Ami, all of them, this is how they looked before, and this is how they looked after they came out from Gaza. No need, of course, to explain. This is after 491 days in captivity. Now we're talking today about 683 days. 50 hostages, approximately, as we know from intelligence and from films that we got, 22 alive, 28 declared dead. All of them are, of course, humanitarian. All of them are in danger. While we speak, some of them are dying for sure, because this is the situation. We are, as you see, pictures of Alon Ohel. He has might be blind in one eye. We have Matan Angres that was severely injured, as you see him before and after. He was also went through a lynch. You see Eitan Horn that lost his brother, came back, and he was left there with a severe skin disease, and so on. I want to say a few about talking about the deaths in captivity. As I said, 7 were executed. Now we know that maybe more. Killed in airstrikes are 4. Mistakenly killed. If you remember, there was this tragedy that they came out. 3 of them came out with a kind of
white flags.
Right, with a white flag, and the military didn't recognize and maybe, reacted very quickly and killed them, killed in crossfires, and 26 with an unknown cause. We know more and more that some of them were executed, but we don't know for surely. So this is why we didn't put them under this part of the 7. What we want to say is that this is a preventable death. This is why we're advocating for a deal. This is why we are also putting pressure on President Trump. We're putting pressure on Miriam Edelson to put pressure on President Trump. We really, really believe, and of course on Netanyahu and the government. We believe that the Israeli people will not be able to live with the guilt and the moral injury of the fact that these people will die in captivity. This will be awful for us as a society. This society was built over never again, right after the Holocaust, never again. We have a country, we have a big and strong army. The fact that these people will die while we have a country and an army will be unbearable for us. I want to say that this will be also unbearable because the army and the people here know that we never leave anyone behind. Whoever is hurt, we make sure that nobody is left behind, and every soldier and every mother and father sending their kids. Both 3 of my daughters were all in the army. The one you saw here, Jen, was an officer. She was also a fighter. She was in the Navy. And I knew that if something will happen, the army will do everything to bring her back. If Israel won't do everything to bring their soldiers and definitely the citizens back, this might really fracture the trust and the contract between the Israeli citizen and soldier to its nation. So this could be very dangerous to our army and could be very dangerous to our protection here in Israel. What I wanted to say, and I said before, that what we can see that in the Israeli society, although they don't have direct contact to any hostage, you can see that 76% respondents are worried or very worried about the situation, and also almost 50% suffer from prolonged grief associated with anxiety, depression, PTSD, even functional impairment. And I must say that what I see when I treat people, what we see here, one of the people I treat, I mean, the population that I treat is sexual assault women, and we saw a rise in coming to therapy, not because they were in October 7th, but because it triggered their own trauma. So actually what we see is that the hostage crisis appears to constitute an ongoing and ambiguous grief process in the Israeli society. Yes, so maybe I'll stop about here to make sure that I have time also to say one other thing and to have your questions, okay?
Well, thank you very much. I guess I have a question for you, and that is of all of the hostage stories, of all of the hostages that you interviewed or dealt with, could you tell us one story that that you personally encountered that really hit you the most?
Yes, I'll say without, of course, mentioning anything specific because I can't. But I'll say that one of the children that was kidnapped while she was playing in therapy, and she played with, like these Playmobil with the small, dolls, and she took kind of a carriage and she put many dolls in this carriage, and she was kind of, driving it along, and then one of the dolls fell. She made it fall, actually, and then this carriage actually continued driving while this person was left behind. And later on, we learned that this was her experience. One of the people that was kidnapped was injured in a very difficult manner, and and he was actually left behind. He was full of blood, and was her experience, and going with that into the tunnels. Another story that I can say, and this one was also in TV, was that the mother, the kid, a girl and her mother, a 6-year-old, she told her mother, "We were kidnapped because of you." What did she mean? Because the house was lit on fire. They all, jumped out their shelter room, and then they were sure that they would be killed, but they were kidnapped. And this was, they had to choose between dying in, being burned. Exactly. And the mother back there told her, "I know it's because of me." She also blamed herself. And then we actually understood that we need to work on this part of feeling, guilty. And of course, helping the mother understand that this was the only thing she could do in this situation. And not only she is not guilty, but she rather saved herself and her daughter. So these are really situations, unbelievable situation that really resembles situation and decisions that were taken in the Holocaust, right? And I'll say something else which is really very heartwarming. The actions of solidarity between the hostages are unimaginable. Sapir Cohen, it's also, she said it on TV. Sapir Cohen said that she got a pita, some bread, and she got it, her captive, the one who captive her, told her, this is only for you. And she decided that she's distributing this among other hostages that were with her, with the 5 other ones. So I think maybe she stayed hungry, but I think her soul was full. And another story is Eli Sharabi said that he was with 4 other hostages. And when he understood that he has the chance to be released because he is elder, and he understood that he will be released first, so he said that he helped Alon Ohel, who is a 23-year-old that is still there. He's a pianist, and he understood that he's very gentle, and he doesn't have this kind of capacity to take care of himself also in front of the others. And he really taught him how to take care of himself and how to stand up for himself, because he knew he won't be there for him. And for Eli Sharabi, the fact that Alon Ohel is there, by the way, not by the way, but Eli Sharabi also lost his 2 daughters and wife. They were murdered. He didn't know that. Only when he came back, he was told that they were murdered. And for him, it's as if he has another adopted child, Alon, that is still there. And I'll say all the hostages that came back, all of them, really all of them, are saying that they cannot go through rehabilitation while there are 50 others there. They just can't, because the guilt feeling, and they know exactly what they're going through, is something that they can't leave alone. All of them, some of them came, and 2 days later came to the hostage center in Tel Aviv, and stood up there and even talked. One of the girls that was a soldier came, and she talked in Arabic, talking to help, hoping that someone hears her. She learned Arabic in the more than 1 year that she was there. And all of them are just preoccupied in helping and advocating, and really being very active in order for their brothers and sisters to come back.
Well, all of this that you're saying, I know Dr. Kokanon, working in Yad Vashem for 10 years in Israel with Holocaust survivors, and hearing their stories of how they helped one another, and how, one thing I learned this, I'd like her to share a little bit, comparing the Holocaust survivors with the hostage survivors, and the trauma. This week's Torah portion has something to do with simcha and the joy, and when you go deeper into it. And what I learned from, what was the name of the rabbi, Mitch, from the book, that the former
Sachs. Jonathan Sachs.
the former chief rabbi of England, Lord Jonathan Sachs. He said that
Right.
the word simcha, joy, actually has to do with community.
Mm.
And the fact that the hostage, October 7th, was during Simchat Torah, was a time for the community to rejoice in
Right.
God giving the Torah. And then
Right.
the community trauma
Exactly.
on the same day. Anyway, Dr. Coconut, do you want to share a little bit about what this is stirring up for
Well,
you? Working with
I
Thank you. I think I would like to leave room for questions, so I will just say a couple of things. So one is the thing about history, that when we speak about the Holocaust, we speak about choiceless choices, meaning that we say that people always have a choice, but when the choice is between two impossible things, it's no longer really a choice. It's a choiceless choice, because whatever you choose is not going to be
Exactly.
good. So that's one thing. And of course, there are many other things that we could talk about the Holocaust and the trauma. But I think the other thing is more sort of current and related to what is going on in the world. And I think that is that how little talk there is anymore about the hostages in the world media, at least in Europe. Whatever media you look at, it's almost always the focus is completely on Gaza. And so there are a lot of stories of people who are living in Gaza, but there are hardly any stories anymore about the hostages, or even those videos that we saw recently. Of course, people like us who are sort of part of that pro-Israel community, and we are doing a lot of activities, we posted them, and we are constantly, on social media and trying to influence. But the fact is that the mainstream media is no longer considering that much of a story, and it almost feels like anytime that somebody mentions the hostages, it's more sort of like an obligatory thing that you have to say it, but it doesn't really feel like there's any urgency. And that's why this is so important, and we need to keep up this work, and we need to talk about this constantly in our circles. But I would rather now give time for the people who joined the webinar, so I'm not going to take more time, but I want to thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll just say a word,
One second, please. While Dr. Cigal is giving our special treasure is sharing a word, we only have like 6 more minutes or 5 more minutes left. This is your chance to all of you who are on the line to please put your questions, and we will put them in the chat or the Q&A. Okay, here we've got somebody, but I'll wait till Dr. Cigal wanted to respond to Dr. Kokanan.
I'll just say a word that what you said is so true about this is not really a choice. It's a choice drawn from being survival, right? So choices being taken in other survival situation. Yes. I'd love if you could tell me, Rosalie, the questions, because I'm not sure I can see all of them.
We have Tim here. Are you saying the only way to get the hostages back is a total withdrawal from Gaza by the IDF?
I'm not familiar of all definitely the details of, but I think that I think there are two things. I think withdrawal from Gaza, I'm not sure I'm calling it withdrawal, because I think we need to find a way where this won't happen again. But I do understand that stopping the war is one of the conditions for the Hamas to let us have the hostages back. I'll say that we are always able to start the war again if something happens, but this was always their, kind of condition. The other thing is that I want to say that there are almost 900 soldiers that were killed from the beginning of the war. This is also a big deal, a part of what I do. Many widowers, very, very young children that lost their father. And this is also something that we need to put an end to. So I think all wars, also the Second World War, ended up eventually with with politics. At the end, wars need to be ended up with kind of agreement. Definitely, we don't want Hamas there. Definitely, Hamas shouldn't rule Gaza. No. I think there are countries that can do this job, maybe Saudi Arabia, maybe Egypt. Definitely we need to find a way to protect ourselves. This is definitely what we need to do. But this thing needs to end. I think that Susanna, you said right now. I think you see in the media, Israel, most of the pictures are of Gaza, of people suffering there, of hunger. This doesn't add any value to Israel.
Okay, well, we are getting, I don't know if we have no more questions there. I do want to, Mitch, did you have a comment before we close? I wanted to show a short video. You have 3
I was going to
minutes.
say, Dr. Siegel, that you broke our hearts here with the facts and moist in the eyes. You know, this is hard, intense. And Israel's been living in trauma. That's what kept coming to me as I'm listening to you. I remember the airlines that got hijacked, people were shot, the pizza parlor bombs, the weddings or whatever it was, again, that were blown up, and the bus
Right.
bombs that we used to see. I mean, Israel goes from trauma to trauma, October 7th. And the question I was going to ask you was the flip side. For those that have this resilience, that are able to go through these the traumas and just show that they have an amazing human spirit that can't be crushed, is there some kind of common denominator that you see as you're walking along with these people in deep pain?
Right. Wow. So Mitch, thank you so much for this question, because I deal so much with trauma. So I find myself talking only about this part, and talking about resilience and the strength of the Israeli people is really, really, really amazing. I think that what you saw on October 7th, young soldiers that were abroad, the traveling after their army, there were no flights to accommodate them. They all came back. They wanted to recruit immediately. People here were going to the fields to help the communities that were evacuated. They went to help there to take out the fruit. Women were sewing hats for the soldiers. Really amazing solidarity and strength and resilience. The Israeli people really, maybe because we went through trauma, but I think also there is a very big sense of we are here together. We are all Arevim to each other. We are all brothers and sisters of each other. And this is something that really keeps us together. I must say that the Israeli society right now is very much departed, or began before the war. You know that there is a very a difficult political situation here. So I must say that the solidarity is also a kind of I would say contaminated by a different, we're kind of right now is in a split, also politically, also because of not everybody being recruited to the army. I'm talking about the ultra-Orthodox. So there are many problems in the Israeli society. However, you can see really resilience, and you can see also, I'll say one word, you can see it's also in the hostages that came back. They are here, they are strong, they are there for their brothers and sisters. They are amazing. So thank you for this question.
Well, we thank you very much for coming. I want everyone to please stay on. Just to let you know, thank you so much for being with us, Dr. Cigal. Dr. Kokanan, who has authored our Holocaust Garden of Hope, who had donated a $250,000 piece of property to build an outdoor, free to the public, 24/7 open Holocaust museum, basically open air, on the banks of Lake Houston in Houston, and I want everyone to see a little piece of our grand opening. It was a few minutes. We'll watch that. And Dr. Kokanan, who lives in Finland, is coming to Houston. She's going to do a conference. Please join our go to our website, which is hra18.org, hra18.org, and register for our Beauty for Ashes luncheon, where we'll have her speaking, and we're going to be honoring righteous among the nations descendant whose family saved his great uncle saved 40,000 Hungarian Jews, Jose Castellanos. So just watch our video for a few moments, and we thank you. We'll see you guys next time. We do always lift up our cup, which is hopefully you brought your cups, virtual coffee. Yes, you got your cup. All right. Mitch has blessed as a man of faith.
I took some water.
All right. Latanya, so glad that we all survived, right? So
Right.
let's just watch this video. Let me share this.
I'll watch it with you, and thank you very much. Thank you very much for the place you gave me, and I
Thank
hope to see you all in Israel. I'll be waiting for you.
We're planning a tour.
Great. So you know how to get reach me. Okay, okay, so goodbye.
Shalom, everybody.
שלום, ביי ביי, רוזלי.
להתראות, עד פעם
להתראות.
הבאה בארץ.
להתראות.
Shalom.
ביי.
ביי ביי.